If you watch or listen to these cleancasts on a regular basis, chances are you are a real leader in your organization. But chances are also very good that at some point someone in your company or in your family possibly can get some devastating news. Maybe somebody's contacted cancer or some other dreaded disease, and maybe the insurance is a little bit short and they need help. It's devastated their budget. And your people around you, people in your organization, want to help as well. If so, we invite you to explore a new way to hold a fundraiser, namely Pink Zebra, the leader in providing great fragrances for homes and offices. By having Pink Zebra as your next fundraising project, you'll get 40% of the sales made to help fund your project. The dollars can add up very quickly. Sound interesting? If so, call Barbara at 573-434-1822. That's 573-434-1822. And she will mail you information on how you can have Pink Zebra fragrances help you raise money for your next fundraising project. Or you can go to pinkzebrahome.com/the Zebra Group for more information on this exciting opportunity. Pink Zebra, the name to remember for your next fundraising project. Welcome to our Cleancast today. Thanks for joining us. Today's topic is the service agreement. That quote contract that you have to have the customer sign after they've said yes. I prefer to call it a service agreement because agreement seems to sound a lot less threatening than contract. And I use the example, if you bought a new home, and all of a sudden you have to sign that offer sheet or that loan application, and all of a sudden you got a mortgage out here or whatever it may be, boy, you just shake, don't you? But if they would say something like, here's just an agreement you need to sign, it sounds less, what shall I say, threatening. It's the same result, it just sounds better. But anyway, whether you call it a contract or an agreement or maintenance service contract, here are some things that I think should be in that agreement if you don't already have them. And let me preface all that by saying I do not offer legal advice. Any agreement that you do should be reviewed and actually critiqued by your legal counsel. But these are some suggestions that I have for putting into your service agreement. Number one, I suggest you make it evergreen. And by that I just mean you make it, this contract, this agreement becomes in effect on such and such date and can be terminated by written notice for either party with 90 days. Kind of clobbered that sentence a little bit, but the point is, if you say this agreement is for 1 year, then that kind of makes your customer have to bring it out and say, oh, that's right, that's 1 year, so I guess I better get proposals again. If you just say it's evergreen and goes on forever, then you don't even have to worry about it. There needs to be a clause in there on what triggers price increases. And if you're living in the United States, and most of the states now are actually enforcing their own minimum wage laws that are somewhere above the federal law and phasing it in. So you need to put that in there, and how you want to, if that'll be a trigger. Some standard ones are your labor, insurances, and taxes. Those are the ones that generally trigger a price increase. But whatever you put in there, put it in there so that they understand it. Then I always suggest in agreements, and I had it in ours, was a cure clause. And basically what that is in the event they find your work unsatisfactory, they send you a letter that says you have 30 days to cure this default. If you don't cure the default in 30 days, we will then terminate the service with a written notice based on what was in your agreement. And that helps you a great deal, particularly when the customer has a contact turnover. Where now you have to get in and talk to a new contact person. And I will tell you, it got my attention. I got two of them in the years I was in business. And I got one, I was living in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I got one that from a big power plant we were doing up in northern Kansas, southern Nebraska area. And I got this cure letter. I was on the plane that afternoon. And I got to Kansas, drove up there, and I was meeting that gentleman at 7 o'clock in the morning in his office to discuss the issue. Make a long story short, we resolved the issue. I took my project manager that I had for that account to lunch, bought his to go, and we placed in a new manager. I lived in that account for 30 days, of course, but we got it turned around, and when I sold my company several years later, we still had the account. But otherwise, if I had not had that cure clause, I would have got a termination letter. This way, I got an opportunity to save the account in the one that was that was the largest one that I got that on. So anyway, I suggest always in there be a 90-day cancellation clause rather than the standard 30. And a couple of things. Number one, we kind of live in a world where somebody new comes in, they have a contact that they like, and the classic to me was a couple of them that they had brothers-in-laws or uncles or cousins that were in the cleaning business with a franchise or not with a franchise, whatever, and they wanted them in there. And so they would fax me a termination letter on Friday night saying this is your last night, and Monday we're going with a different company. Well, when you have a 90-day clause in there, you probably can go back to or you should go back to them. I did. So I really have 90 days here. Do you sure you want to really pay me for 90 days of not working here? And of course, most of the time when the new person's come in and made that quick change, they haven't read the agreement. Now, did I always collect on the 90 days? Very seldom. We usually ended up negotiating somewhere in between. And even I will tell you this, in the service agreement, when you take it out to what would be a new customer, you can put the 90 in there, and that's one of those negotiating things. If they say, I won't sign a 90-day agreement, then you start from there. You say, well, how about 60? Shall we compromise? Well, I'm used to a 30. Okay, I'm used to a 90. How about if we stop at 60? And probably half the time I got that. Actually, the most prevalent one I got was 45 days, believe it or not. So you have an opportunity, even if you get a 45 days, that's 15 days more than you had when you started, because everybody else thinks about 30. And I really put that in there. I'll tell you why I put that in there, because we were going through a period back in the mid-90s where the contact people that we had in the buildings that we cleaned were turning over faster than we were turning our people over. I mean, I had buildings where, I had 15 full-time people. A year later, I had 14 of those same 15, and I was on my fourth property manager or my fourth contact person. And so we started putting in that in the agreement 90 days, and that way they couldn't just come in and I'm going to throw you out. Because now, if it's a pretty good size account, and even if we did negotiate it down to 60 days or 45 days, that's still, if I had a $5,000 a month account, and they want to get me out of there because they got a brother in the business or a sister in the business or an uncle in the business, even at 45 days, that's $7,500. And maybe they'll let me finish it. Maybe you don't want to finish it. If it's in a relationship that's so bad, so fractured, you may just want to take it, forget the clause and move on out. But I would put it in there, and then you can negotiate from there. And then in an earlier Cleancast, we talked about what happens if a customer takes your employee. And you remember I talked in that Cleancast about the fact that you need to put in recruiting, training, vetting, training, orientation fee of anywhere from 15 to 25% or whatever number you're comfortable with, and have them pay you for that. Now, let me just suggest to you that you look at your current agreement. Are these pieces in it in one way or another? If not, let me consider that you put them in there. These are just additional pieces that can maybe save you some money down the road, or bring you some money even with a current contractor or current customer, excuse me, as it would be in, for instance, when they take your employees. But these are some important things that need to be in your agreement. And let me suggest that you look at your agreement and see if it needs to be updated. But don't forget, get legal advice before you just do it. Thanks for watching us today. We appreciate it.